Hello and welcome to another running video. This time I'm recording the audio after the event because on the day I set off on this run it was very windy. Checking my watch after the event, I see there were gusts of wind up to 43 kilometres an hour blowing directly in my face in some places where I was running. So I was wearing a little clip-on lapel microphone that I plugs directly into my camera, and the microphone was picking up lots and lots of wind noise to the point where it would have been impossible to hear the commentary in some places. And I think that not being able to hear, the poor quality sound is probably a reason why people... Sorry, I'll start that again. Poor quality sound is probably a reason why people don't follow through on videos sometimes, don't watch them. So if the sound quality is not good, people stop watching. They can put up with poor vision, I think, sometimes, but poor sound tends to turn them off. So anyway, I'm recording the audio using a different microphone later that plugs into the computer. I'm using a thing called Sound Recorder while I run the video through Clipchamp. So all of that's just useless information. I'm going to talk to you in this video about resilience. And so before I get into the subject of resilience, of what it is, why we need it, and how you go about developing it, I should probably offer a few disclaimers. Number one, I am not a mental health expert. I have no medical training, I have no psychological training, I have no expertise in that area at all. I'm a bloke who is running, who's read a few articles and given some thought to the idea of resilience and what it means and why we need it and how you develop it. And I'm sharing those things while I run. So it's sort of thinking out loud. This is primarily, I guess, a video for entertainment purposes. If you are a person who is currently seeing a medical health professional for any reason, then you should continue to do so. You shouldn't say, well, that guy in that video said I should do this, so now I'm going to do that, because I'm not going to say that to you, and I don't want you to do that. If you are taking medication that's been prescribed to you by a medical professional for a mental health issue, then continue to take that medication. I'm not here to tell you whether to take it or not. Whatever the doctors or medical professionals have told you to do, continue to do that. If you are a person who is experiencing a mental health issue, or you know someone who is experiencing a mental health issue, then there are avenues where you can go and get help. For example, Lifeline. If it's a younger child, you can try the Kids Helpline. You can try things like the Black Dog Institute or Beyond Blue. All of those organisations have websites, and they also have, I believe, helplines, emergency helplines, to help you through a mental health issue or incident or episode if you're having one. So I'm putting all that out there because I don't want people to think this bloke is talking through his hat. I'm just a bloke who's talking out loud about something that I've read a bit about and given a bit of thought to and have a bit of interest in, and I'm going to put forward some ideas. You can take them or leave them, but as I said, if you are currently under any medical care for mental health issues, then continue to stay in that care. Alright, so first of all, what do I mean by the word resilient, or resiliency as some people say? Well, I suppose the simplest and easiest way to define this and to understand it is to say the ability to bounce back from a setback, the ability to overcome adversity and continue to live and continue to progress in your life, the ability to see things that don't go according to plan and accept that they don't go according to plan, but still continue to live your life. So it's basically the ability to get on with your life despite life not always going exactly as you hoped it would, or as you planned it would, or as you expected it would, or as you might have even been led to believe it would. You have a setback, there's an adversity, there's a disappointment, and resilience, or being resilient means being able to handle that setback, that disappointment, that adversity, and to use a cliche, move forward, keep living rather than some alternatives. So that's what it is. Now, why do we need it? Well, I suppose if you think about life it's a complicated and messy thing. It's never simple. It's never like the movies. It's never like the sitcoms where there's a little lesson and everybody hugs each other at the end and everything turns out for the good. Sometimes things just don't go the way we hope they would. Sometimes things don't go as we planned them. Sometimes our expectations are not met. We build up things in our mind and hopes. We have dreams, aspirations, goals, whatever it is that you want to call all of those things. So the point I'm making is sometimes life doesn't go the way we want it, the way we planned it. And why we need to be resilient, or why we need resiliency, or however you want to express, whichever way you want to use that word, is because if things don't go the way we want them to, if our goals are not met, if our dreams and aspirations are not met, we have, I guess, two choices. One is we can kick stones. We can curse the world, we can say we're useless, we can say everybody's out there against us, world sucks, people hate me, I'm useless, all of that sort of negative stuff. Or you can say, well, things didn't work out the way I planned them this time, and so I have to be able to bounce back from this thing, I have to learn something from it, and I have to be able to continue to live my life. I have to get on with my life, I have to keep doing the things that I do, rather than dissolve into self-pity or even worse, break down into something like depression or something like that. Now, the kinds of things that you think are going to be major events in your life that are going to cause you to need to be resilient, and the sorts of things I think will be different, of course, because events are different for everybody. What you think is important isn't necessarily what I think is important, and vice versa. There'll be some things in everybody's life that are major events that will cause them to be unhappy, and they'll need to have some resilience to be able to cope with those things. A death in the family, for example, a death of a child, a death of a parent, death of a loved one, a friend, maybe even a loss of a pet. Those are things that people have been, it's somebody you've been very close to for a very long time, and suddenly they're not there. And it is natural to grieve about those things, and it's natural to feel upset and sad and so forth about those things. When you go through that period, it doesn't mean that and come out the other side of it, doesn't mean you care any less or that you've forgotten about the person. It just means that you've learned to live with that situation. You keep that person in your heart and in your thoughts, but you've moved beyond the grief and despair and thought, well, I have to keep living my life. My mother, father, child, best friend, whatever, would want me to continue to live my life, and I have to go on with my life, and I'm able to do those sort of things. Some other things in your life that happen to you will be temporary setbacks. Your football team not winning on the weekend is not a reason to throw all your toys out of the playpen and consider yourself a failure, or that life is over for you. It's a temporary setback that you'll get over. You'll watch the game on TV, you'll read the result in the paper, or you'll see the results in the news and so on, and you'll be cranky and upset for a while, but then you'll get over it, because that's what we do with things like that. You might be in a position where you're going for a job. Let's say you're going for a promotion at your work. Now, there's a new position coming up at the place where you work at the moment. You believe you are the best qualified, most suitable person for the job, and you've you've applied for the job, and you've put your resume in and done all the things that you're supposed to do to let the people where you work know that you are interested in this job. You even get to the interview, and then after the interview it turns out that somebody else got the job. Now, it's natural to be disappointed, it's natural to be upset, it's natural to be angry even about those things. It's especially awkward and difficult if somebody else who was working at the firm got the job and you didn't, because you're going to be looking and thinking, well, I should have got that job, I'm better than that person, or at least I'm as good as they are. How come they got it? Did they get it because X, Y or Z reason? Am I useless? Am I hopeless? Or something like that. If somebody came from the outside to the job, you might be thinking, why did they choose them? I'm already here. I already know how to do all those things. Why do they have to bring somebody in from the outside to do the job? What's wrong with me? Why can't I get the job? So a choice is, with those things, is to say, well, I'm going to kick stones and I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life about this particular thing that I had my heart set on and that I thought I was good enough to get and thought I was good enough to do. Or I can say, well, things didn't work out for me the way I wanted them to this time. I didn't get this job, but there'll be other opportunities. I didn't get that promotion. Whatever it was, whatever the opportunity was, whatever it was I was seeking, it didn't work out according to my plan this time. But that doesn't make me a worthless person. That doesn't make me useless. That doesn't make me doesn't mean I'm no good. It just means this particular time, things that I wanted to achieve, or things that I hoped I would achieve, I didn't, and I have to learn from that. I have to go on with my life, and I have to learn from it. Now, how do you develop this resilience? There's no sort of magic kit. You can't go down the street and buy a kit or something or other and say, well, no, I bought some resilience. You learn it over a lifetime, and it's especially important if you're a parent that you start at a very young age with your children, because let's face it, you're not going to be there all the time for them, and even if you were, you shouldn't be, because sooner or later they will be adults, they will be independent, they will have to stand on their own 2 feet, for want of a better expression, and they will have to face the world. And being a student is difficult, but being an adult is much harder. Going to school is difficult sometimes, but going to work and being an adult and doing all the things that are required of you when you're a working adult is much more difficult. It's a more demanding life. So if you're a parent and you're wanting to build into your children the capacity to deal with setbacks, the capacity to deal with adversity, the capacity to deal with times when things didn't go according to plan, then be there for your children and help them through those situations, but don't try to shield them from it completely. Don't take away from them the opportunity to learn from that setback, the opportunity to feel what that setback was like, so that they will be motivated perhaps not to have that feeling again by saying, well, next time I'll do better, I'll work harder, I'll better prepare, I'll study more, or whatever it is that they were trying to do. You might think that your child is worthy of being the captain of the sporting team, for example, and it turns out the coach thinks somebody else is better suited to that position. Your child may be the best player, but not necessarily the best person to be the leader of the team. You're probably not going to do your child a lot of good if you intervene and insist upon the coach placing your child in a position that the coach, for example, I'm just using this as an example, doesn't think they're suited for. They will perhaps be a little bit disappointed, and that's naturally they should be. I thought I was qualified, I thought I was good enough for that thing, I thought I could do that thing, but the coach thinks otherwise. The coach has given someone else the opportunity to do that. What I have to do is accept the disappointment, realise that somebody else has made a different choice, which is their right, and accept that disappointment and learn from it. And so your job as a parent is to help your child through that situation, but not take away from them the opportunity to feel the disappointment, to feel the setback, because from the setback and from the disappointment they'll learn. If you take away from them that opportunity to feel the disappointment, to experience the setback, they won't learn. They won't learn any resilience. They won't learn to recover from setback. And when they're at work and the boss says to them, I'm not satisfied with your performance, I'm not satisfied with what you're doing, or the company says we're downsizing and you're the last person in, and so you're the first person out the door, they'll have no skills, they'll have no strategy, they'll have no way of dealing with that. They'll be disappointed. They'll be worse than disappointed, because they'll be lost and not knowing what to do with themselves, because they haven't ever experienced that sense of disappointment if you've taken it away from them, and they haven't developed that resilience. So how do you help your children to develop that? Well, the first thing I think is to help them to put things into perspective. And that means to be able to look at a particular incident, whatever it is, and determine that in life's grand scheme, how important is it? Now, right at that very moment, whatever the particular incident is that happened to your child, it's probably going to seem like the biggest thing, bigger than Mount Everest. It's the hugest, the worstest, whatever you can think of, thing that's ever happened to the child, and nothing in life is ever going to be any good anymore, and nothing worse could have. This is the worst day of their life. And so your job is to help them to look at that situation and ask the questions like, is it really the worst day of your life, or is it just a day where you're a bit disappointed because something you hoped for didn't happen? Is it the end of the world for you? And you're probably going to say to them, no, it's not. And we say that a lot of the times, it's not the end of the world. Whatever it is that happened, it's not good, but it's not the end of the world. Move on from it, kind of thing. So help your child to see whatever the particular event that occurred to them that they think is the worst thing in the world and is the end of life as they know it, for what it really is. It is a setback, it is a disappointment, but it is not the end of life as they know it. It's not the end of the world. It's just a setback. We often, children and adults for that matter, have the capacity to catastrophise things. Everything is a catastrophe. And in order to grab people's attention with things now, we tend to engage in hyperbole and say things are worse than they actually are and exaggerate the impact of things and so on. So, put the thing in perspective and say, well, where does this fit in the grand scheme of life? Is it the biggest, worstest, most tragic thing that's ever happened to you? Or is it a setback? Now, that's not to say everything should be trivialised, because there are some things that are big setbacks in life, and they are, well, perhaps not the worst thing that's happened to you, but certainly a big setback and a big disappointment. Like I said, a death in the family is a terrible thing. It's a tragic event, and that is an event to look at and think, well, this is pretty bad. It's awful for all of us. If your child was, let's say, for example, on the ballot for the school captain or a prefect at school, and they didn't get to be school captain or vice captain or prefect or whatever, it's a disappointment. It's a disappointment, and they're right to be sad and they're right to be upset, but it's not up there in the same category as the death of a member of the family, for example. If you have teenage children and they're in their first love affair, if you want to put it, I can't think of a more appropriate term for it. I'm sure teenagers use different words than that now, but they've got a boyfriend or girlfriend, and they're convinced that they're deeply in love with this person, and this is the person they want to spend their life with and all that sort of stuff. And then suddenly one day the other person says, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go out with you anymore. Let's break up. Whatever it is that teenagers say to each other, that is going to be a disappointment. There's no risk about that. I'm not trying to trivialise that. I'm not trying to say it's not going to be a disappointment. But in the grand scheme of things, again, you're going to say to your child, well, it just turned out that particular person wasn't the one for you. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means it turns out you two people weren't, for whatever reason, suited to each other the way you thought you were. That other person has different interests, different choices, different whatever it is that they have, that they've decided that they don't want to spend their time with you, doesn't make you a bad person or a terrible person or a person that nobody wants to spend any time with. It just means that that particular person wasn't the right person for you, and the right person will come along eventually. Now, of course, it's going to be a different feeling if you've been in a long-term relationship with someone. Say you've been married for 20 years or something like that, and one day your partner comes home and says, I'm done with this, and walks out. That's a different thing. You've invested a lot of time in that sort of situation. I've never experienced that. I can't tell you what it's like, but that is certainly not the same thing as your teenager and their first love affair not going the way they thought it would. And a marriage or a long-term relationship ending is a big deal, and you will be angry and upset, and it will take a long time for you to recover from that. I'm not suggesting that you won't. That is a far more serious event than your teenager's first love affair not going the way they hoped it would. So resilience, what is it then in summary? It is the ability to recover from a setback. It is the ability to bounce back, to use that cliche, when things haven't gone according to plan, according to what you hoped, according to what you expected, maybe even according to what you were led to believe. It's the ability to be able to continue to live your life when things haven't gone as you hoped they would. Why you need it is because we want to be able to live our lives. We don't want people to be wallowing in self-pity. We don't want people to be thinking negatively about themselves and thinking bad thoughts about themselves all the time, and on the basis of one setback in their life saying, I'm a worthless person, I'm a terrible person, I'm never going to be any good at anything, because none of that is true. It just means you had a setback. And we want people to be resilient so they can recover from those setbacks. And so of the two choices, the positive one to say, well, let's move on with life, let's go ahead, let's get on with things, let's accept this for what it is, learn from it and get on with things, or kick stones, curse the world and, wallow in self-pity. We want people to make the positive choice. And how you do it is try and put things into perspective, try to look at something and think, how serious is this thing? How important is it in the grand scheme of things? And some things are going to be really important and some things are going to be less important. And it's okay to say, well, that thing, yes, I was upset about it, it hurt me, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't the end of the world. I got on with life, I got through it, and perhaps even at some later stage in your life, you'll be able to look at that thing and maybe even laugh about it. Well, those are my thoughts about resilience. If you have, or being resilient, if you have a thought or a comment, then please put it in the comment section. When I become aware of it, I will respond appropriately. As always, please comment on the content. And if I've made a mistake, a factual error, or said something that you know to be incorrect, then I'm happy to be corrected about that. I'm hoping that whatever it is that you're doing, and if there are setbacks in your life, you have sufficient resilience to be able to overcome them. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing today, and I'll talk to you when I'm making another running video, whatever that will be. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you when I see you.